Hello guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about Erik Karlsson and where he might sign this offseason. Now, Erik Karlsson is the biggest fish in the 2019 NHL free agent pool, but what does his contract actually end up looking like in free agency, and which team does he end up signing with? What's till the end? To find out. Now, while this free agent class features some amazing top talent like Matt Duchene, like Artemi Panarin, like Sergei Bobrovsky, Erik Karlsson is still the big fish in the pond and will get paid like it. When it came to this season with the San Jose Sharks, Erik Karlsson had a roller coaster, topsy-turvy ride. It was a very inconsistent year that had a lot of blemishes on it. He only played 53 games. In those games, he was solid offensively, but the defense wasn't quite up to that point. We especially saw it in the playoffs, where the guy could barely skate behind his own net, could barely back check, and that is a very scary thing for a defenseman that could get paid upwards of $10 million. When it came to the 28-year-old defenseman, he played 53 games with the San Jose Sharks this season, getting 3 goals, 42 assists for 45 points, a 59.3% corsi for percentage, which really shows how good he still was offensively. When it came to his season with the San Jose Sharks, he was racking up the assists. There were some points of the season where he was just an absolute god. But again, the consistency was a big factor for him. He really didn't have that throughout the season and in the playoffs, and that's a big worry, again, if he's going to get that big payday. While he didn't have the greatest season all around, and it wasn't a successful one in the playoffs, and the guy does have some health concerns, there are still a ton of teams out there that could definitely use a guy like Erik Karlsson. I think a lot of teams can, especially when he's healthy, and a lot of teams will be in the market for Erik Karlsson in this free agency. Now, the first team that should be in on Erik Karlsson, the first team that's maybe the most logical team, the San Jose Sharks are one team that could definitely target him. Of course, being on the San Jose Sharks, they already got a little bit of negotiation time ahead of free agency, so that does help them quite a bit. With the San Jose Sharks, I'm not sure if they're the most logical option, but it could still work. With the San Jose Sharks, in order to sign a guy like Erik Karlsson, especially for the money that he's likely going to want, it'll take some sacrifices. Mostly the big one being Joe Pavelski, being the big UFA for them. That's not Erik Karlsson in this offseason. He'll have to be let go of if the San Jose Sharks want to get a guy like Erik Karlsson re-signed and still on the team. While they could maybe trade a couple of guys, maybe sign both, I think that's a little bit unrealistic to actually happen. Some of those bad contracts are probably unmovable at this point. When it comes to Erik Karlsson, he's probably going to ask for upwards of 8 and 9 at least in the dollar range, and San Jose, if they want to actually afford that, Joe Pavelski will likely have to go, unfortunately. Track for the San Jose Sharks, I think he'll be at a $9 million for 6 years. If he does go back to the San Jose Sharks, I don't know if they'll be able to pay him more than that, to be honest, because they're just at such a tight spot right now. But if the Erik Karlsson can still stay in San Jose and sign for maybe 9, maybe 8.5, that would be huge for the San Jose Sharks and would always step up that defense. Now, going on to the next team that might be in the Erik Karlsson sweepstakes, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I know what you might be thinking. This seems impossible that the Tampa Bay Lightning could even afford or be in on Erik Karlsson. And while it does seem crazy, I assure you it is somehow possible. Now, if the Tampa Bay Lightning play their cards right and trade the right people in the offseason, they could very well afford both Brayden Point and Erik Karlsson, which as a Tampa Bay Lightning fan just makes me giddy inside. To be honest, it might seem a little bit far-fetched, but if you trade a guy like Ryan Callahan, if you trade a guy like Tyler Johnson, maybe even a guy like Alex Killorn, Tampa could have enough money for both of those guys, and it does seem impossible, it does seem crazy, but it actually is pretty likely. Now again, when it comes to this whole possibility, there would have to be a lot of moves involved, a lot of guys getting traded from the Tampa Bay Lightning, but it still is possible. Imagine a top 4 of Erik Karlsson, Victor Hedman, Sergachev, and Ryan McDonough. My gosh, that is absolutely disgusting, and as a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, that is basically my dream at that point. When it comes to potential contracts, at this point, Erik Karlsson would have to sign for a lot less compared to some other destinations. When it comes to this potential signing, I have him signing for $8 million for 5 years. And again, that is pretty low for a guy like Erik Karlsson and the talent that he brings. But for the Tampa Bay Lightning, with no state tax and all that, it is very enticing for a guy like Erik Karlsson to sign long-term, to settle in Tampa Bay of all places, and have a great team around him. It is pretty enticing, and honestly, in the end, if Erik Karlsson does sign there, and if they make that moves, it wouldn't exactly surprise me. Now, the next team that might end up signing Erik Karlsson this summer is the Vancouver Canucks. And it might seem crazy. The Vancouver Canucks of all teams would be interested in actually getting Erik Karlsson, but it isn't exactly impossible. When it comes to some rumors out there, Patrick Johnson of the Vancouver Sun reported a few months back that Vancouver Canucks, if Erik Karlsson does go to free agency, that Jim Benning would be heavily interested. And that does make sense. Just a year ago when we were going through the whole Erik Karlsson trade sweepstakes before he was traded to the San Jose Sharks, the Vancouver Canucks at one point were one of the heavy options for Erik Karlsson, and they were heavily into talks with the Ottawa Senators before those negotiations kind of got turned down. So I can see the Vancouver Canucks revisiting that and actually signing him this summer. It wouldn't be that crazy. When it comes to the potential contract of Erik Karlsson to the Canucks, it will be a lot more than if he signed in San Jose or in Tampa Bay. That's pretty much guaranteed at that point. When it comes to the potential contract, I would say if he signs in Vancouver, he gets a $10.5 million contract for 7 years. And that's a big pay to give a guy, especially a guy that's kind of cutting a little bit. But for Vancouver, they have had the cap space in the past, and they get rid of a guy like Louis Eriksson, that cap will be easy money right there, and Vancouver could definitely afford him. Well, the Vancouver Canucks obviously aren't the playoff contender right now that a team like San Jose or the Tampa Bay Lightning would be. They could definitely be that in a year or 2 years' time, especially if a player like Erik Karlsson comes to the team and nurtures some of the younger guys. Playing a guy like Quinn Hughes, playing guys like Brock Besser and Elias Pettersson, Swedish teammate Elias Pettersson, could be a great enticement for Erik Karlsson, and of course he would get the money that he definitely deserves. Now, the next team that could be very in on Erik Karlsson is the Vegas Golden Knights. They're a very interesting team because they ended up having trade talks with the Ottawa Senators back a year ago before he was with the San Jose Sharks. Of course, Erik Karlsson was traded to the Sharks. The Golden Knights ended up going with Max Pacioretty. But when it comes to those trade talks and those negotiations, that could still happen with Erik Karlsson. And the Vegas Golden Knights were a contender for him a year ago, and I think still are. This might be a little bit tricky for the Vegas Golden Knights because they have exactly $0 in cap space. $0. So they're going to have to make some big moves in this offseason. They also have got to sign a guy like William Karlsson to make some more space. So the space is not going to be easy to come by. But I think the Vegas Golden Knights have serious interest in getting a guy like Erik Karlsson, and why not? Because he would seriously boost that defense. Now, while clearing out that cap space will be hard, they've already got some players that have been swirling in the trade talks, most notably being Colin Miller, a guy that's going to be pretty likely traded this offseason. You also got David Clarkson on the IR. He could be a guy that's traded for some extra cap space too. Maybe you could trade a guy like Cody Eakin, who maybe is valuable for the Vegas Golden Knights, but if you're getting a guy like Erik Karlsson, maybe you need to move on from. So Vegas, again, will have some tough decisions to make. If they really want to go hard on Erik Karlsson, they'll have to make some big moves in free agency. But when it comes to Erik Karlsson, he would be a great fit on that defense, and as a Golden Knight fan, I would freaking love that. Erik Karlsson will be the guy on that Vegas defense and would be that way for a long time. When it comes to his potential contract, it will be quite lower than the Vancouver offer, but I think he would get $8.5 million for 4 years. I'm not sure the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be able to give him that long-term contract. I'm not sure if they're willing to make that investment, but if Erik Karlsson is willing to take maybe 4, maybe 5 years, and they get enough cap space to Vegas Golden Knights, I can see a potential signing happening and Erik Karlsson coming back to Vegas. Now, for the team that maybe has the best chance to land Erik Karlsson this summer out of all the teams that I've talked about, I have the New York Rangers. And Erik Karlsson will be the best fit on the New York Rangers out of any of these teams, and it's not even close. And the New York Rangers are an up-and-coming team with an obvious defensive need. When it comes to some of their defense, they've tried fixing it with the past, with guys like Kevin Shattenkirk coming in. Obviously, that signing did not work, but a guy like Erik Karlsson could be the next guy to lead that NYR defense into the promised land. Now, when it comes to NYR, they would also kind of be in the same situation as Vancouver, where they're selling the hope right there of a lot of young prospects and a lot of young players, but it would definitely work in the long run. They would have to give them a lot of money as well, but I think it would be worth it to bring Erik Karlsson to the Rangers. When it comes to potential contract, I am saying having the same thing around Vancouver. I think they'll give him a $10.5 million contract for 7 years. It's a big pay to give a guy who has had some injury concerns, but they obviously have not been that afraid to do it in the past with guys like Kevin Shattenkirk. We also got to factor in the NYR is a gigantic market, and Erik Karlsson will get a lot of attention that he rightfully deserves there. While he might not want that necessarily, it would be a great place to also call home for a potential family as well. That would be huge for a guy like him who would want some stability. He didn't really have that in San Jose. He obviously did not have that in the Ottawa Senators organization. And with the New York Rangers, they would be a great fit there. Erik Karlsson, I think, would put up some great numbers alongside guys like Mika Zibanejad and Kaapo Kakko next season, potentially. And when it comes to Erik Karlsson, he would look great there, will put up a lot of points, and have a very successful stint there, I think, and could maybe win a potential Stanley Cup with how that core is looking right now. If the New York Rangers were able to solve some of their defensive woes with a guy like Erik Karlsson this summer, that would be absolutely amazing. If they got a guy like Erik Karlsson, get a guy like Kaapo Kakko or Jack Hughes in the draft, and maybe grow some of the prospects, bring them up, and get them some more ice time, New York could be a very dark horse team to make the playoffs next season, especially if Erik Karlsson is involved. Now, I've had to bet on any NHL teams signing Erik Karlsson, especially out of the ones that I mentioned in this video. I would say the New York Rangers. They seem like the best fit for Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson would get a lot of money there, a lot of term as well. He'd be able to stay there and raise a family as well, be able to be in a big market, and be a part of a very good up-and-coming team that has a lot of future potential stars and could very well win a championship in his time there. Now, when it comes to this NHL free agency, it'll be very interesting to see what happens, especially with Erik Karlsson, what he ends up signing for, where he ends up signing with. While there is some health questions, and that has been happening in the past couple of years, I still think he's a fantastic defenseman. Wherever he signs, I think they'll be happy, and I still think Erik Karlsson is one of the premier defensemen in the NHL today. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So, let me know, what do you think about Erik Karlsson? What do you think about his season with the San Jose Sharks? And of course, the big questions. What do you think he'll end up signing for? And where do you see him signing in this offseason? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video about Mitch Marner and him possibly getting traded from the Toronto Maple Leafs. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below your thoughts on Erik Karlsson and where he might go in this offseason. And I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.